And behold, yesterday Wes Streeting has accused the BMA of acting like a cartel over payer demands because junior doctors are going to prepare to strike again for the 13th time next year because they want another 20%. The 13th time since March 23. We say a very good morning to Dr Dean Eggitt, GP and CEO of Doncaster Local Medical Committee, who is always available to speak to us in the mornings because he's never at work. How are you, Dino?
Good morning, Jeremy. I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I don't understand the naivety of this government. Junior doctors, I know a lot of people jump up and down. This is just my opinion. Nurses got 5%, junior doctors got 23%, and they want more. How much do they think is available, and what do you think the public think of this, Dean?
Well, if I was a junior doctor today, I'd be thinking, well, actually, it's perfectly reasonable to strike and ask for more cash, because what we saw yesterday was Wes Streeting giving £1 billion to sack 18,000 NHS staff. So on the one hand, you say we don't have any cash, and then in the next sentence, you say, well, here's another £1 billion to get rid of a load of people. It doesn't seem to make any sense. So I can understand why resident doctors are saying, can we have some more cash? But having said that, I should point out, I am not in fan of strikes. We have had 13 walkouts from resident doctors. They've had 22% pay rises. We've had 1.5 million patient appointments cancelled or delayed. This has had a huge toll on the NHS. And at the moment, we're coming up to what's expected to be one of our busiest flu seasons ever. We really need this like we need a hole in the head.
In terms of junior doctors, though, I'm pushing you for a reason. What do you think your average Joe, John, Mary, or whatever you're supposed to say, thinks this morning, sat in a queue, waiting for a bus in the rain, already just coming home from a 12-hour night shift, that probably don't ever get a pay rise, 1, 2, 3, 4%. I give you nurses. They go on about this existential cut over many years. They were given 23% to the tune of billions of pounds, and they're back again. What do you think the average Brit, Dino, thinks about that? Because I think most people are tired to the back teeth and are beginning to lose faith in that section of the medical profession.
The question that I get mostly from patients is, why can't I get to see a doctor? Most of my patients don't ask me about their pay. They say, where are all the doctors? So I think these two intertwine with each other. I think the average Joe is probably not thinking much about doctor pay and is thinking, how on earth do we get more doctors into the front line? We have at the moment where we've got GPs who are unemployed, we've got junior training doctors who can't find training posts, and pay is part of the problem. And Wes Streeting needs to get a grip on this and actually solve the pay and working conditions issue, because that is what is not being talked about here. Wes Streeting's only option is to demonise the BMA and to demonise doctors as a way of winning this argument.
But isn't the BMA, with the greatest respect, I mean, it is overtly political and has made its stance quite well known and has taken on government after government. I repeat my question. How do you think the BMA and doctors who, whether you're, I mean, you brought up about, you talk about work conditions. Why are none of the people who are pretending that they need to strike, why are they prepared to accept 23% and want another? I've never heard one of them say, I'd like that money spent on better conditions to work in. They want it for their own pockets.
Well, I think you're probably not listening then, Jeremy. Many of what we're saying, and I should point out here, it's quite well known that I'm not a huge fan of the BMA and I'm not a huge fan of strikes. I should point out I do not agree with striking. Doctors' pay at the starting point is absolutely atrocious. Doctors will work well over, in many cases, 60, 70 hours a week on pay that, quite frankly, you could have done by working in a local shop. But they will do so, saving patients' lives and putting their own life on hold. So resident doctor pay at the lower end is absolutely terrible. At the higher end, it's pretty good. So resident doctors do need a pay rise at the lower end, and they do need changes to their working conditions. That's part of what they're saying. I don't agree with the BMA approach. I don't agree with striking, but there are many issues that Wes Streeting is not addressing, and instead he's spending £1 billion on sacking 18,000 NHS staff, and that just happened yesterday. And it's really important to point out here that £1 billion isn't actually coming from taxpayers right here and right now. Where it's coming from is the NHS budget. That £1 billion to make 18,000 staff redundant is actually coming from the NHS being allowed to overspend this year. And what that means is over the next 3 to 4 years, that the NHS will have to underspend to pay that back to the Treasury. So what we have now is 3 to 4 years of NHS cuts to pay for 18,000 redundancies when everyone is ready to walk away from the NHS anyway.
It's really interesting, actually. You've educated me, and perhaps what we're coming to here is another example of how so much money, the people on the sidelines will go, well, the NHS wants even more, and they'll say it needs to be spent more wisely. Certainly your example, if you're spending all that money getting rid of people and at the same time the very people who need it. I was interested in perhaps what you felt the British public were thinking. It's certainly not a problem that's going to go away, and the window dressing of giving them a pay rise hasn't worked. Dino, really good to see you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us this morning. Dean Eggitt, Dr Dean, GP and CEO of Doncaster Local Medical Committee, with Morning